They're trying to knock out the Taliban and the insurgents, and the Taliban and the insurgents are getting more and more money from the opium trade. So the military is very much in favor of getting rid of this source of funding for the people that they're fighting.
Thomas Schweich is the Principal Deputy Assistant Secretary for Counter-Narcotics. In short, he oversees the U.S. State Department's efforts to get rid of poppy production here. We travel with Schweich throughout the country to get a handle on what the U.S. is doing in this area.
Has there been a change? Going back a ways when I came to Afghanistan, the military people said, listen, drugs are a problem, opium is a huge problem, but we've got our hands full and we're concerned about mission creep, so that has to be somebody else's deal.
Well, there has been an evolution. I wouldn't really even say so much a change. Early on, after the overthrow of the Taliban, first of all, there wasn't as much opium as there is now, and also they had their hands full trying to knock out the remnants of the insurgency, and there were less forces than there are now. So basically, they had to prioritize. Now with the opium trade on the increase again, and with the insurgents getting more money, I think everybody recognizes that counter-narcotics and counterinsurgency are basically the same mission.
What do you hope to accomplish today?
Today we're going to take a tour of the facilities, check out the airplanes, make sure the crews are all getting what they need, and then make sure we get an idea of what kind of support they're going to be providing over the next few weeks. We're entering the heart of eradication season. We expect a lot of hot activity, attacks on the eradicators. We want to make sure they're ready to support the people who are doing the eradication.
To make our way over Helmand, we're going to have to transfer now to choppers. To avoid attacks from the ground, these craft are going to have to be nimble. The drug traffickers and their Taliban sponsors would like nothing better than to down an aircraft carrying U.S. State Department officials and their guests.
Taliban uses information better than anybody, and no defeat of the Taliban or narcotics traffickers can be successful without a good information campaign. And that would include making sure Afghans understand that there's a law against growing poppy, which is a relatively new law, that you can be prosecuted for it, letting them know that narcotics impacts their own country's public health with a rising addiction rate, letting them know that it impacts their relationship with their neighbors, such as Pakistan, Iran, and the former Soviet republics, which now have huge drug transit and drug addiction problems, letting them know that if they are to be part of the world community, they need to stop this, and also letting them know that Islam does not tolerate drug abuse and drug production, and that it's against their tenets of their religion. If we're going to be tough on the farmers and say, if you grow poppy, we'll eradicate your fields, they're going to say, well, what about the big kingpin up there? What about the one making the big money trafficking? Why are they getting away free while we're being hurt? And that's a legitimate question. So we think we have to make a concerted effort to land some very big narco-traffickers to let the population know that no one is immune, no one is too powerful, no one is above the law. Anyone who's involved in trafficking is subject to being interdicted and then prosecuted. A poppy farmer has to have something else that he or she can grow. They have to have another source of income, and you have to provide that to them. And there's several ways that we do that. One is cash for work programs. If somebody decides to stop planting poppy but is going to plant fruit trees, which take 3 or 4 or 5 years to grow, they're going to need a cash for work program. They'll work on one of the dams or roads or one of the big development projects that we've got to help generate extra income for that family. Next is seed, fertilizer, and various agricultural assistance.
We're off to Jalalabad this morning. For what purpose?
Well, we're going to see how opium farmers are offered alternatives if they don't want to grow poppy. There's other things they can grow. We're going to see a commercial demonstration farm that shows the sort of farming techniques that we show the Afghans. We're going to go to a produce packing facility and an open market where the produce is actually sold. So we'll get an idea of what farmers can grow when they decide not to grow poppy.
And on the basis of your briefing, what's the security situation now?
Well, in Jalalabad, it's okay, but not great. There have been some unsavory elements cited there over the past few days, so there's going to be a lot of advanced security work up there to make sure everything's all right. We've got to wear the vests all day. So it's, I said, middle level. I think yesterday was a very low security situation. The day before was a pretty high security situation. This is somewhere in the middle.
When we went south, that's the worst security situation.
Definitely.
When we went north, that's among the best.
Right. Yesterday you could see it was, and you can even tell by the attitude of the people. There was much less consternation, much less worry. It's a much safer area up in the north.
Now we're going to the east, to Jalalabad, and it's mid.
About in the middle, yeah. You don't have a severe Taliban presence, but there are insurgent groups. There are groups that cross over from the border, and so there are risks there, yeah.
Well, Mr. Secretary, what's the most important thing you've heard here from this man?
Well, what I've heard is that it is possible with better agricultural methods to convince farmers to stop growing poppy, to start growing illicit vegetables, that they can make enough money so that they can have the quantity of money they need to feed their families. They won't make as much money growing vegetables as they will growing poppy, but as he said, he'll have a clean conscience, and that's worth it, and that's very exciting to hear.
It's very interesting what he said about sometimes he didn't want to raise opium, but he did.
Yeah, I mean, he said there are a couple of factors. First of all, people raise opium because of poverty, and then the criminal elements take advantage of that and lend them money and then get them indebted and force them to raise more poppy. And by breaking that cycle with better technologies and better yields, he said he can now make a profit, earn money, and be free of the guilty feelings he had when he was growing poppy. They've got everything down from the packing to the marketing to the ordering processes. It's really pretty impressive.
And the hope is that there'll be a number of these spring up over the years.
Right. I think they're planning to expand. They're hoping to expand, put a daycare center involved in this, and really build it into a major industry in the area.
Which would give them an alternative to the poppy growth.
Exactly, because these are premium fruits, and they sell them at a premium. They sell them to Dubai and to hotels. They can really make serious money. The biggest problem we've had is getting an alternative that comes close to generating the revenue of poppy. There are a lot of crops that are available, but this type of premium operations where you really generate the profits that make people think, no, I don't have to grow poppy.